John and I are going to talk about how to design faster and smarter during your 9 to 5.
So it's a fun topic to talk about because most of it revolves around just optimizing, cutting out the fat of things that just bloat up a lot of time. And it's useful even when you don't have like a quick product turnaround, because it allows you to just plot out a whole bunch of ideas and just like really kind of refine and put out a lot of stuff to narrow down into something that you really feel great about. And so just a great exercise in just like doing the things that really matter and, refining your mind and organizing your thoughts in a way that allows you to get things done faster.
And a lot of this is also more about just working smart, working smarter, and just really thinking about the stuff that you need to prioritize, in your day.
Yeah, exactly. For me, number one, kill distractions. Kill distractions. Distractions is the biggest thing that can kind of bloat up the time for designing something. There's so much to be distracted about in life, so much. The phones, one thing that Dennis always does is that he uses his Mac of sorts. Like, he doesn't use external monitors. He'll just will sit in front of his laptop and just just cut off everything up around him. He'll turn off his phone and whatnot. I'm not that extreme with it. I wish I could be, but just the basic idea behind it is great, in that you just kill all distractions. You cut off everything that's just stopping you from, really, putting your pen to the paper and getting it done. And, I can't stress it, how important that is, because our craft centers around, how clear our mind is and how well we can map out the processes and interactions of what we're trying to accomplish. So if you have too much going through your mind, it's really hard to, sit down and get something churned out.
Yeah, I hate using big monitors and big displays at work. I tend to use just my laptop when I'm designing, because what ended up happening with me when I use these big displays, I always seem to just spread out my windows, and I'll have my email open on my top left, or like my sketch in front of me, and then I can see all these windows. So I found it better to just focus on one screen, and I tend to do that on just my laptop and just work in front of my laptop. My team always makes fun of me, like, why don't you use this beautiful screen that you have in front of you? But for me, it just doesn't seem to work out all that great.
Yeah, I'm like Dennis, except for I do use external monitors, but I stay away from actually using it as a multitask center. I just like to have a big, palette for my sketch, for sketch, just so I can have just see a whole lot more sketch there, see things a little bit bigger and more of an expanded thing and whatnot. But you want to avoid, having a lot of things on your screen at one time. Having at one point in my career, I would always have like a little chat window in the bottom right of my screen, at all times, and kind of had it pinned there. And terrible idea, because naturally when you have a list of things that you're trying to do for the day, it's easy for someone else's request to come and hijack your focus from it. And they don't mean ill intent when they're doing this. It's just that if you're trying to get your own stuff done, my philosophy is to do what you need to do first, and then taking the other requests later, unless it's some urgent thing saying stop the presses, stop the designs, if you have a brand new direction, need to come into a meeting right now, or something like that. But you just try to narrow down and kill all the distractions as much as possible.
Yeah, and that's actually a great segue into my number one advice, or my first advice would be to learn how to say no. And this is really hard for us to do as humans, as people. And some of us are really nice and we say yes to everything. You have to learn how to say no. You have to learn how to say no to new requests that come in, something that wasn't in the pipeline, and all of a sudden someone on the team said, hey, you know what, we need this too. But if it wasn't planned to begin with, you shouldn't be working on that. You might have other priorities. Learn to say no to new requests that come in, and also to maybe meetings that you don't have to attend to. People who set up great meetings tend to have pre-meeting notes or agendas that they share before meetings. Take a look at them, see if there's something that, requires your attention or your attendance, and just learn how to say no. What this ends up helping you with is you spend less time on the things that you don't have to or you shouldn't be, and you can spend more time to work smarter and faster in the things that you need to.
That's something I struggled with early in my career. Just people would always come, from the woodwork. So it's hey, could you help me out with this? Could you help me with that? I need to do a logo for this, tiny, internal project, or this what, if you have a lot on your plate and you're trying to focus on something very specific, sometimes you have to say no, like Dennis said. My next one is making a list of objectives and designing to them. One thing I do when I'm working on any design is that I write down 3 to 5 things that is generally the point of my design,
Mm-hmm.
and I literally write them out on the sketch file itself. I have them on their own layer, just so that I constantly have a reminder of what I'm designing toward as my guide and my compass toward each screen that I'm doing. Literally for every single view, I have this is what I'm trying to achieve, so that my mind is focused on what I'm trying to do. And cause some of the things that kills or that creates a bit of a bottleneck is just not having problems defined very well. Sometimes you'll be designing but not really fully grasping what you're designing
Mm-hmm.
toward, and what your purpose is, what your grand scheme is, not just a micro purpose, but just what your overall vision is. So if you write that vision out and you just always have it in your mind, it's easy to literally create your journey maps and and design to exactly what you're trying to achieve. And another one for me is just to minimize a bigger problem into mini tasks. Sometimes your mind will get cluttered if you think your design has too many things to manage and keep track of, and particularly when someone's asking to design a full app or something like that, and it's just a
Mm-hmm.
whole lot of little micro or macro objectives. And sometimes you just have to segment things off into little minor things, and not do too many things at once. Basically pretend one part of it is a sole project, and quickly knock out that small part and move on. I like to put things into lists as well, because when I see something in list form, do this next, do that part of the screen next, do that part next, do that part next, I will just have a just a coordinated list in my, in front of me, and can just whip through them thing by thing, as opposed to just trying to manage it all in my mind. For me personally, just having that checklist of all the little micro tasks just majorly helps out.
I think that's really good. Yeah, having a list always helps.
Yeah, OmniFocus really helps. And lately I've been going back to things as well for this, but
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter what you use, just as long as you plot
Yeah, as
it
long as
onto
you
a
have
list.
some kind of system that works for you, you
Yeah.
should be fine.
Yeah.
My second advice for working and designing faster and smarter is to use some sort of time boxing technique. So maybe it's Pomodoro. Pomodoro is one of my favorite ones. So sometimes when we design, we spend too much time on one specific screen. Maybe we can spend, an hour on what the border radius is of a button is.
Yeah.
Right? Is it 2? Is it 4? Is it 8?
Yeah,
What
I
is
do
it?
that a lot. One thing I do a lot is I design my stuff in prototype form, but then you can just get hung up, especially if you're using a tool like Frame or Origami.
Yeah.
You're spending way too much time on things that don't matter.
Yeah, totally. I think for me, Pomodoro is great because I do like to take breaks in between my time, or if I really need to focus, and sometimes you can get lost. So it's really important for me to take breaks in between that time. Long story short, but Pomodoro is basically some sort of time box. It's usually 25 minutes. You complete 25 minutes of work. You take a 5-minute break. You do another 25 minutes and then another 5-minute break. And you do that 4 times. When you do that 4 times, that's 1 Pomodoro. So check it out, Google it, and use some sort of method or whatever technique may work for you to time box yourself. It's a great technique.
Another one for me is just to do old school marker board sketching. Because for some reason, some people, I'm very OCD, have weird, perfectionism issues. And sometimes just sketching it out on paper, while that's ideal, just getting those first few strokes out just feels very heavyweight sometimes. Or if you're going directly to sketch, the tool, and designing just freehand from there. Sometimes it can be very heavyweight, as weird as it is. You have an unlimited amount of space and files, but it just still feels heavyweight. It's I just can't quite drag that first box. You can't quite put the pen to paper. Something about a marker board. I guess the nature of just quickly erasing and whatnot, or just feels so much more lightweight for me personally. So I like to do my early sketches and on that, because it makes me feel hey, no, erase, go try again, erase, try again, and it just helps me plot out my interaction. So that's typically where I put together my interaction model, because it's just a much faster way to just jot out your ideas, and it feels very lightweight for the person who's a little compulsive.
For me, number 3, leverage the work that your team has done when you're in that specific situations. So one example could be, let's say I'm working on a creation flow. Like I'm working on a flow where a user creates something, right? Maybe a teammate of mine already created like a create flow. So maybe I can leverage some of that work. Ask your teammate, hey, I know you created a similar interaction flow or you created a similar pattern that I'm working on. Can I get some of those files? Can I leverage some of that work and pick up where you left off or tweak it for the problem that I'm trying to solve? So use your team, leverage the work that's already been done to speed up and work and design smarter and faster.
Yeah. The last thing for me in general is to, and we'll discuss this thing in greater detail, like I said, but is to use a process. Don't be held back by your process, and don't be bound by it. Like, don't feel like you have to do every stage of whatever process it is. I've been in plenty of companies where the process has, was the problem. You're using these like really ridiculous, long agile methods, and it's weird because it's called agile, but sometimes people can string it out to actually hinder a team. But develop a process of quick steps just for whatever you're doing. And just use it as a go by that allows you to plow through things. And, you can use like, the 12-step one that I'm going to talk about in detail. That's on my website. Or you can use the one that we developed at Google. It's a 5-step one, which is pretty much like understand, diverge, decide, prototype, and validate. And you do each of those things on every day. So it's a 5-day process of, getting any screen done.
Yeah. A good thing to Google along those lines would be design sprint, from like, Jake from Google Ventures and stuff like that. You can see those 5-day design sprints that can help you. It's great for a team collaboration too. So that's really good. Okay, so that's all for today's episode. We hope that you're learning some new stuff from John and I in the last couple of weeks, and in today's episode that we talked about, designing faster and smarter. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. You can find us at angelocamachogroup.com or all across different social media platforms. Until next time, cheers.